And here comes passage 3 that talks about an area that a lot of us are generally perturbed by, challenged by, and that is philosophy. So it talks about as scholars of enlightenment. We draw our inspiration for this intertwining of end and ends and all that. So, enlightenment was the age where rationality was brought to the front. So what this paragraph basically goes ahead and tells us is that there were these people called Enlightenment thinkers, particularly Francis Bacon. He asked for or called for both a new start to knowledge production and a reconsideration of its ends. So prior to that, the ends were professional reputation, financial gain, even love of learning. He says, no, those are not the ends. The end should be the use and benefit of life to improve and conduct it in charity. So basically, make the life of people better and not those other petty things. According to Bacon, he did not really use the word petty, but you get the drift. Advocating an end to scholasticism, the medieval education program that emphasized dialectical orative. Also, we just extending this further. He says that, yeah, just leave all of that behind, move towards, he gave a blueprint for the beginning of a generations long and worldwide effort to seek new ends, benefit of humanity, and that thought process is generally treated as the origin point, the starting of scientific revolution. Then there is a description of this model in greater detail and what all it entails and what all different conflicts it went through. After that, we are talking about the fact that his philosophy has ends which are defined as purposes as well as an end. So that first paragraph, end and ends, that becomes clarified here at this juncture. But the last paragraph shifts our attention away from that a bit. He says that, okay, the next year there was one person who took a less sanguine view of knowledge production as compared to the Enlightenment thinkers for some reason, where he basically said that applied science can have purposes, search for humanistic knowledge seems endless. So that's the core point where he differs from whosoever came earlier. Now with that, let's dive into our questions. Question number 9. Which one of the following may be seen as a characteristic of Enlightenment thought? A. An institutional process that would benefit humanity. Institutional process may be, but that would benefit humanity is specifically Bacon's view. It is not something that can be attributed to the entire Enlightenment thought. Okay. B. An earnest desire to inculcate a love for learning. That is actually contradicted in the first paragraph itself. So this is definitely not going to be the answer. C. The conclusion that one type of study could lead to newer fields. Now, if you would go back, you would realize that this is something that is actually mentioned in the paragraph, in the passage, right? In fact, let me just take you back and we can actually go ahead and have a look at it. See, knowledge production can be a launch pad for new ideas, methods and paradigms. Then okay, not in the first, okay, not in the first paragraph, but we definitely have something in the third. Then subsequently we have okay, so I think that's the theme that we can actually get from there. If you interpret particularly the third paragraph, you would realize that this talks about the model that is propounded by Enlightenment, and this is where option C can be had from. So this is true. An optimistic view of knowledge production, I can understand why some people can get tempted by this. Look at the last paragraph. The scholar Robert Burton took a less sanguine view of knowledge production. So sanguine is a synonym for optimistic. So Robert Burton was less optimistic about knowledge production as compared to the Enlightenment thinkers. Now, does that mean that Enlightenment thinkers were optimistic in isolation? If I tell you that he is less tall, the X is less tall than Y, does this mean that Y is tall? The hell, even Y could be short. Y could be a dwarf for that matter. So, the comparison here cannot really lead us to a claim about absolutes, and therefore, D can't say in terms of enlightenment, and thus the only true bit is C. That makes C our answer for question number 9. Let's have a look at 10th. According to the passage, Francis Bacon led the revolt against old mechanisms and fields of studies. So there is no revolt mentioned in the passage, and therefore I think this is something that cannot be determined. B, he propounded the philosophy that ushered in a sharp uptick in the scientific studies. Absolutely. This is something that we can arrive at on the basis of the second paragraph. Francis Bacon was of the opinion that fields of study do not have ends. This is contradictory. He believed that there can be ends as well as end. And then D, he advocated a self-centered motive for learning. Not at all. The last 3 lines of the first paragraph talk about Francis Bacon abandoning these thought processes, in fact. So this again contradicts what Bacon said. So this is also false. So the only true bit is option B, and therefore option B is going to be our answer. Here is the next one. Which sequence of words below best captures the narrative of the passage? So A can be ruled out because we are not talking about love of learning. We are stating the opposite. So new knowledge, I would prefer new ways of knowledge production, but that will work. Endpoints and outcomes, that's right. Optimistic view of knowledge production, maybe humanities. But then, optimistic, no, we can't. We've in fact determined why we can't use the word optimistic in isolation. And humanities, nope. So B is also ruled out. C, new knowledge production, yeah, that works. And to dialectical arguments. Okay. Optimistic view of knowledge production, nope. Division between science and humanities, nope. D, new styles of knowledge production, yes. And to scholasticism, yes. Endpoints and outcomes, yes. Less optimistic view of knowledge production by Robert Burton, yes. So A, B and C all had something or the other which is wrong. D is the only one which has everything right, so I don't even need to bother about the sequence and more precise way of delivery. We can very safely choose D as our answer through this process of elimination. Then let's have a look at 12th. All of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. So we're looking for something that cannot be inferred. Bacon revolutionized learning of science, true. Enlightenment thinkers were sanguine about and desirous of scholasticism, false. They were in fact against it. Burton was more pessimistic about new knowledge production than was Bacon, true. He was less sanguine. So if you're less sanguine, less optimistic means you're more pessimistic. Science seems to have specific ends while humanities do not. This is something that we can infer from the last paragraph, in fact the very last sentence. So B is the only one that cannot be inferred. Therefore B should be the one that we choose as our answer to this particular question, and that concludes our passage 3.